There is a notoriously dodgy neighborhood close to where I live. For some stupid reason, I decided to go for a walk through there one day. I thought it couldn't be that bad, but it is that bad, all because of one man. This particular neighborhood is shaped like a horseshoe, with both ends connecting to a main road. There's a park in the middle with some basketball courts and a playground. I walked down the first entrance of the horseshoe and through an alleyway which led to the middle where the park is located. I turned left at the end of the alleyway and saw two guys up ahead. One guy was obviously a meth user. I'm sorry, there's no other way to describe him. He wasn't wearing a shirt and was covered in tattoos, clearly drawn by someone who is not a qualified tattoo artist. He had a trolley full of junk, and as I got closer, he threw a garden hoe at the other guy, who appeared to be in his own front garden just watering the plants and minding his own business. I was hoping I could walk past this guy without any interaction, but I wasn't that lucky. The meth head started talking to me as soon as he noticed me. I greeted him politely and tried to keep walking past, but again, I wasn't that lucky. He grabbed a massive hammer out of his trolley full of shit and quickly walked over to me. He held the hammer up close to my face and said, "See this? It's worth $100. I realized he was trying to intimidate me and said, "Oh yeah," and tried to continue walking again. Then he yelled, "Hey, stop!" I just wanted to run, but this guy had a fucking hammer and could most likely outrun me. So I stopped and turned to face him, somehow managing to stay calm. He got up in my face with the hammer again and said, "I'm not trying to stick you up. I could if I wanted to, though." I laughed and pretended to be interested in what he had to say. He started going on about how he'd been in jail 7 times, bit someone's face off once, all the delightful stuff you could expect to hear from a crackhead. In between his fucked up stories, he made inappropriate comments about my appearance. At some point, he insisted on showing me all the stuff in his trolley. He'd found it all in random dumpsters. As he was digging through the pile of junk, he mentioned that he once found a 100-year-old porcelain doll in the trash. I'm very interested in old stuff, especially toys. I asked him if I could see the doll. He kept trying to pressure me to go inside his house. I told him I'd wait on the sidewalk and he could bring it out. He went into his house and came back out with a suitcase full of dolls. Some would have been worth a lot of money, and some were just old junk. I saw a Barbie doll from the 1950s amongst the pile. He started pressuring me to go into his house again. I lied and said that I really needed to go home and finish an assignment, but told him I would come back later to have a better look at the dolls. I had no intention of ever going back, but with people like this guy, you can usually get away by remaining calm and pretending to be their friend. He insisted on walking me back to the main road. It seemed to last an eternity. Kept asking me personal questions, ripped random plants out of people's gardens and gave them to me. He chanted at me in Latin. But the most fucked up part of all was when he found a small bone on the ground, picked it up and put it in his mouth. It appeared to be the jawbone of some kind of animal. When we got to the exit, he ripped an orange off someone's tree and squashed it up. Then he told me to open my mouth so that he could squeeze the juice into my mouth. I told him I would eat it when I got home. So, with a squashed up orange and an assortment of various plants, I eventually got away from this guy. Once I got home, I messaged a cousin of mine who uses meth to ask if she knew this guy. She knew exactly who he was, and as it turns out, he was an actual murderer who killed his wife and buried her in the backyard. He only did 12 years in jail for that. I'm sure he's hurt more people and can't understand why someone like this is allowed out in the community.